Everybody. Welcome to our December 16th sustainability chat. Welcome. What a strange December we are having. I don't know about you, Steve. You're in South Carolina. What's the weather like for you right now?
Well, let's see. Yesterday it got down to 20 degrees at night and warmed up to a balmy 38. But
Oh,
in a couple of days, I think we're supposed to be up to 62. So go figure. Who
well,
knows?
we've had unusually warm weather. We've been in the 60s for like record-breaking amounts of days in a row. It was one of those wind days today, though, Steve. It was a day where I didn't want to go out and work bees because I didn't want to light my smoker because
Right.
everything's really dry and the wind's blowing sideways. But we've had a strange December. That's my long roundabout way to saying welcome to all the Colorado beekeepers. Now, Colorado beekeepers live in tremendously different environments, so what I'm experiencing might be very different from someone who lives up in the mountains down to the Four Corners. But I'm excited to see everyone today because our topic relates to any beekeeper, no matter what the environment is that you live in. We had the privilege this winter of being able to work with the American Honey Show Training Council for our honey show, for our winter meeting with the Colorado State Beekeepers Association. I've seen honey shows that we've put on before, and I've seen honey shows that have been done at other conferences. And I'm really excited to start this relationship. I think KT, our master beekeeping director, has done a great job of initiating this. And several of us have gotten to know Steve Genta, a founding member, I believe, of the American Honey Show Training Council. And Steve's
Yeah.
going to talk to us about the Training Show Council, what honey shows do for you as a beekeeper, and just to get to know the opportunities that participating in a honey show can offer to Colorado beekeepers. So, Steve, welcome. Tell us a
Thank
little
you.
bit about yourself as a beekeeper before we jump into the honey show stuff.
Okay. Well, I'm a third generation beekeeper. My grandfather and father used to keep bees in the orange groves of California. I'm originally from California, born and raised there. So you can tell how long ago that's been. I don't think they have orange trees and oranges anymore in California. But anyway, I've been doing it for about 30 years. I'm a certified Cornell master beekeeper. I am South Carolina's first master beekeeper. Uh, Teach all kinds of beekeeping from beginning beekeepers all the way to the master level classes. I have been a certified honey judge now for about 25 years and kind of got into the ground floor on that program as well. But just have been around beekeeping. I have about 20 colonies of my own here that I maintain. And now that I'm retired, I can work them like I need to instead of just doing it on the weekends. So, been around the yard every once in a while. Yeah, I've experienced a lot of different things. So, I'm really honored to be able to talk to you tonight and give you a little background of what honey shows really are and, maybe get some interest. Please, if you have any questions, let us know. I don't mind being interrupted because if you're thinking it, there might be three or four other people that are thinking it, and we'll just get that question answered. So,
Yeah,
without further
feel
ado,
free.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
you could throw those questions in the chat and then we'll work them into our conversation. That'd be great.
Perfect. Perfect. That sounds great. Well, let me just pull up real quickly here a map of where we are in the American Honey Show Training Council, the states that we're in. And oh, sharing is not turned on. You wanna let me do that, or we just don't really have to have it?
No, I think I just did it. Try it again.
All right, there we
Did
go.
that work?
There
Perfect.
we go. Yeah, that should do it right there. All right. Can you see my map? Let's see. Slide. There we go. Okay, come on.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. All right. So we all started this honey show training back in 2001 when Keith Delaplane made a trip over to Europe and got together with a gentleman called Michael Young, who is a certified judge and trainer and all that over there in Ireland. And they brought the honey judging process over here to the United States. And it started, like I say, in 2000, 2001, something like that. And I was lucky enough to be in the first few years that they got started. And we have grown from the Georgia state, which is where Keith, Delaplane came from. We have increased, and this is now how our American Honey Show and all of our judges and everything has gotten to. So we expanded from that one state all the way to Oregon, California, Colorado, Texas, and quite a bit on the eastern half of the United States as well. So we our program and the things that we do, people really love it. It seems to be very well accepted because it is it's a true what's the word I'm looking for here? It really is a great way of teaching people how to do not only the things for the honey show, but in your actual beekeeping operation itself. Let me see if I can clear this one screen out. I've got a screen that's in my way here. Hmm. All right, 1 minute, one moment. All right, we'll just go on from here. Well, let me tell you what, there you go. Honey shows, a lot of people really think, oh, it's almost like a beauty contest. Oh, isn't that just a pretty jar of honey or a great block of wax or something like that? But that's not really what honey shows are all about. Honey shows actually are a great way for experienced beekeepers to be able to show other beekeepers how to properly prepare and produce products that come from their colonies. Uh, you know, as a beekeeping community, we do a really great job of training beekeepers. We have, beginning beekeeping classes. We show them how to nail the wood together. We show them how to install a package. We talk about managing the colonies and, you know, medicating and swarm prevention, all the things. We do a really good job of raising beekeepers. But once we have a beekeeper get successful and they've got two or three supers of honey, there's really nobody that's saying, okay, what do you do with this? I'm sure that if you've been asked, by somebody, well, I got a super of honey, now what do I do? Well, buy you some honey bears and make you some lip balm and go sell it. Well, we're not doing a really good job of helping that beekeeper to learn what to do. And that actually is where the honey show is fitting into that niche. We, as the honey show training people, we are training individuals to become judges so that you can take and assess someone's jar of honey or their block of wax and point out the things that they did good, things that they didn't do well, and how to improve it. Honey sells itself, right? I mean, probably every one of you never make enough money to be able to satisfy all your customers. I know I don't. People say, "Oh, what's your website?" I said, "I don't want a website because I can't make enough to satisfy all my customers." But that's one of the things that we do, and everything that comes out of a colony is food, or you're going to be, using it, breathing it, or whatever. So whether it's eating a tablespoon of honey, whether you're breathing in the vapors from a candle, whether you're making lip balm or lotion or whatever, everything out of the colony is pretty much a consumable. So we need to make sure that we use the proper amounts of food safety and to properly prepare all of these things to make sure that we are providing to our customers something that is safe and that they can have the benefits of it. One of the things that we like to teach in our classes is what my friend Brutz calls the green bean story. And he'll ask, "Well, how many people do the grocery shopping?" A lot of people raise their hand. Yeah. So when you go up and you grab that can of green beans off the shelf and your thumb slides into a dent and you take it off the shelf and you look at it and the label's torn and you've tilted up and you've got black goo all around in it and it's all nasty and stuff. You're not going to want to put that in your shopping cart, are you? You're not going to want that. Well, the customers that you have look the same way at your honey. They want to make sure it looks clean, that it's uh, well prepared, it's not sticky on the outside, it doesn't have bee parts floating in it. So we need to be cognizant of that. And that's one of the things that we teach our judges in how to point these things out to the people that enter the honey shows. Okay. In our training class, we go through and can pretty much show you that if you give me, say, for instance, a jar of honey, I can tell you if there's been any problems when they harvested it, when they transported it, when they extracted it out of the frames, when they put it in a settling tank, when they put it in their jar. Your jar of honey is going to point out every one of those flaws. And our judges are trained to see those flaws and to communicate to you by what we call our comment card, the things that we found wrong and hopefully how you can do um, different steps in order to keep it clean, in order to do it right. So being a honey judge is really learning how to become an instructor for other beekeepers so that you can help them to make a better product. And you know as well as I do that if you have two jars of honey and one looks real pretty and you can see right through it, it's clean, it's not sticky, and you got one that's only, three-quarters of the way full, what's the customer going to do? They're going to pick that nice, pretty one, aren't they? And they're going to be willing to pay more money for it because you have shown by your proper presentation and cleanliness and all of that, you can get more money for it. So it's not just about making a pretty little thing, but you're also going to be able to demand a higher price because it's quality. You've done quality things. So that's what really a honey show is all about. And that's how we try to communicate that. All of you that are if you are in the master beekeeping program, that's basically how I got started becoming a judge. Is I was in the master program and I said, I need to do something here. Yeah, this honey judging thing looks pretty easy. I'm gonna try that. Come to find out, it was a whole lot more than just, oh, look at that pretty jar. You really had to get down into it and discover a lot of through the training in that, all of the different things that you can see when you're looking at an exhibit. Any questions so far about what I've talked about?
So you're talking about teaching people and people taking classes. Do they take classes to learn how to um, put entries into a show? Do they take classes to learn how to become a honey judge, or is that both part of the same trainings? What does the training look like for someone
Sure.
interested?
Well, actually, it's both of those things. We do have what we call our how to prepare an exhibit workshops that we will give at various different state level meetings or whatever. And we have our judges come in, and this is for any beekeeper that's interested. You can come in and we will show you and talk about the different things that we see in a jar of honey and what causes that flaw and how you can prevent it from being in your particular honey or your beeswax or whatever. So we teach you not only how to prepare your entries, but how you can determine what went wrong at a certain point. We do also have honey judge training where you enter into our program. It's a 2-year program, and we train the people with all of the information they need on how to judge properly. We go through all of our steps in our training for the individual. And then once they're done with the initial training, then they go through a number of different, I guess you can call them exercises or earning credits They have to participate. They have to enter honey shows. They have to be a steward, which is basically a honey judge in training. You get to shadow a honey judge while they are doing it and ask questions. So there's a number of significant things that you need to do. You need to be a secretary, so you know that particular job. Every one of our judges has been through the training of how to be a steward, how to be a secretary, and how to be a honey judge. So if we had a shortage, somebody can step in and take care of it. So you're trained in every step in order to become a honey judge. And once you become a honey judge, that doesn't mean you're done. We have continuing education where you get to come back and learn all about all the other different things. We focus primarily the new judges on honey and beeswax because those are the two main things that just about everybody does with their colonies. But we end up having about I think there's about 170 different categories of things that you can make from your bees, whether it is uh, candles or lip balm or propolis tinctures or toothpaste, or I mean, mead is another one, or honey beverages. There food, all of the food that you can make with honey as a basic component. So there's a lot of things, and all of our judges get to have that training of how can you judge a honey cake or how can you judge a bottle of mead or something like that. But we do want to focus a lot of our attention. Every one of our judges needs to be an expert when it comes to honey. And so I can tell you, honey is about the most popular uh, category that people enter into because everybody makes honey, right? I mean, it's probably the least profitable, but the most well known of all of the bee produce that you can make. But we look at a jar of honey, we're going to look for cleanliness. We're going to take a look at the outside of the jar to make sure that you cleaned it all. We're going to make sure that there isn't any water spots from when you put it in the dishwasher and didn't get it prepared properly. We're going to look at your honey itself to make sure that it's not crystallized or that there's not a lot of debris in it, like you didn't filter it well. We're also going to smell it to make sure that you didn't use too much BGO or maybe too much smoke when you're trying to harvest it. Um, you maybe didn't let it settle, so there's a lot of air bubbles that might be in your honey. You didn't properly fill your jar completely. There's about 15 different points that we can look at in a jar of honey that every judge, when they get a jar of honey, they go through every one of these points. Say, is it yes or no? Did they filter it? Did they do this? Did they do that? Does it, has it fermented or whatever? We get down to the moisture content if it's necessary. There's a lot of things that we look at, but bottom line, we're looking for a clean product that you would want to give to your mother. I mean, you wouldn't want to give her something that was substandard. So, cleanliness and preparation and processing all of your honey, those are the kind of things that our honey judge is looking at.
And
Did we have some questions?
Kathy asked, what's the biggest or most frequent flaw that you see in honey shows? Let's just stick to the honey category for that
Okay.
question. What do you
Yeah,
see
that's
that?
that's an easy one. Clarity of the honey, and that can be caused by anything from air bubbles, crystals, or stuff like that. Float things floating in it. And then probably the next most common thing we find in them is pet hair, believe it or
Hmm.
not.
Oh, I believe it.
So many people are not, I mean, our state here is very relaxed. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a honey house in order to process your honey. Okay. You can do it in your kitchen. You can bottle it, all from your kitchen. What a lot of people don't realize is that as you're being very careful in that, Fluffy the cat is up there walking around, kind of wondering what you're doing and coming over and sticking their nose and flipping its tail, and those pet hairs are all over. to get down into your extracting tank.
Hmm.
Or Fido is sitting there wagging his tail while you're jarring up a couple of bottles of honey, and those pet hairs will get in there. So
So you talked about having to enter different products. Do you have to do a certain amount of different categories when in your training, or a certain amount of different entries? How does that work?
sure, when you're studying for a judge, our students have to enter in a honey category, a wax category, and then two others of their own choice. So
Okay.
it could be photography, it could be food, it could be soaps, lip balms, things like that. We don't limit that portion of it, but we do want to make sure that they are good with honey and beeswax. Now, as a candidate for a judge, you don't have to win a first place. It is not a requirement. But what you do is you prepare your entry and then you bring it to your exam, and we watch you go through it and see if you can pick out the flaws that are in your own honey. So you don't have to win first place. You don't have to win second place, but you need to know the things that you have to discover, the flaws that you see in a particular entry in order to make sure that, we are satisfied that you have been trained enough and know how to identify these particular flaws, for lack of better terms. And then we have
And
this,
then
and then we have a comment card. And what we do is a check off that says, okay, you have this in your honey, or, there was some crystallization. Then on the back, the judge is going to write their comments. It's like, okay, well, you had granulation. Well, you need to filter it better. Or maybe you need to heat your honey a little bit better. Or if you have, bee legs in it, well, try to do this. Or if you didn't fill it quite up to the top, we're going to say, well, you need to check the fill level. And we actually put the proper fill level on the set of rules that are pretty much for any honey show.
yeah.
Um, we get a lot, not a lot, but we get some pushback on people saying, well, I put it on my scale and it weighs 16 ounces. Well, your customers and people shopping for your stuff, they don't carry around digital scales with them. So they're not looking to see if that really does have 16 ounces. They're looking to make sure that it is filled up to the fill level. And every jar, whether it's plastic or glass or whatever, it has a fill level. And if you fill it up to the top of that fill level, like we show on our rules and things, you're golden. You're good. You don't want the customer to feel cheated, even though you put 16 ounces of honey in there. If it's this far below the top of the fill level, they're going to go, nah, they're cheating me. It's
Yeah.
not true, but we're not talking about, you know, reality here. We're talking about perception, right?
Yep, it's the psychology of consumerism. They want to feel like they're getting their money's worth, and if it's not all the way up to the top, even if it's a good value based on what that jar is being paid for, they're going to feel like they're getting shortchanged in some sense. You
Right.
mentioned those comment cards, Steve. Those are really important for people who are wanting to improve their products. Now,
Absolutely.
those judges go through and they make comments on every single entry. Talk about that process a little bit.
Certainly. We actually, for our newer judges, we have arranged the list of flaws, I guess, for lack of better terms, in the order that they should be inspecting it as a judge. So, in
Mhm.
other words, when I'm judging, the first thing I do, I don't even touch the jar. I take my flashlight, which is probably the most important tool that you can have when you're preparing an entry, is a flashlight, a good 500 high lumen LED kind of flashlight, because it'll show up all the sins that are on there. But I don't even have to touch the jar. I look at it under that high intensity light to see, is there fingerprints? Is there honey smudged on the outside? Is it filled completely? Because I can tell by with my flashlight that if I can see that light from the flashlight coming between the top of the honey and the bottom of the lid that you screw on, that it's underfilled. So I can see flaws before I even touch the jar. So we scan the outside of the jar looking for cleanliness. Then we can pick it up and we scan the actual honey inside itself with this high intensity light so that we can see all of that. So these steps, every new judge can take it and say, okay, I need to check this, I need to check this, so that our judge doesn't miss any of the things that we found. Again, I've been doing this for 20, 25 years. I can do it with my eyes closed. I've done it so many times, but these newer judges can't. So we provided them this list so that they don't miss anything. And it's really easy because it's a yes or no. Does it have, debris inside of it? Yes or no? It's easy. Does it have wax particles on the surface of the honey? Yes or no? So if they do find those things, then they can say, we found, bits of wax on the top of on the surface of your honey. Here's how to remove it. Take a spoon, overfill your jar, scrape it out. It's a number of different things that you will learn as a honey judge and how to, prepare that. Well, you write those down and you pass it on to each entrant. So every person who brings in an exhibit is going to get that list that's filled out, checked off the good things, the bad things, the flaws that they can do, and then our judges will write down, heat your jar next time, or check your fill level, or whatever. Instructions on how to make it better. Now, I can relate to you a story that um, I had, I've judged a lot, probably 20 shows a year at least. Couple of years back, we were at one of these big Hive Life kind of things or whatever, and we had just finished judging, and I had a lady come up to me and she says, I'd like to talk to you. So I'm looking for the nearest exit, right? Because I don't know what she's going to talk about. So she said, you judged a jar of my honey last year. I went, okay. And she said, I took to heart everything that you wrote down on there because I think she had won like a fourth place ribbon. She said, I was disappointed, but I agreed with what you had said on there. And she said, I just want you to know that this year, when I prepared my honey, I pulled that card out and I made
Nice.
sure that everything that you did. And she said, I want you to know I won a blue ribbon this year. Well, it was like the world released off of my shoulders. I didn't have to look for a way out. But at the same time, it made me feel really good that if you do what we suggest to you, we want you to do good, you're going to make a successful entry. And now she can take that and probably sell it for even more than she was before because it's perfectly clean, crystal clear. She did everything right. And that's why when we have an entry for a honey show, there's usually 3 jars. Sometimes there's 2, but most of the time it's 3 because we want to know that you as a person who's doing this, you can make 1 jar perfect, but we want to make sure you can do 2 jars, 3 jars perfect. If you can do 3 jars perfect, you know you've got it. You know the right things to do, and that's just going to make you better at producing the things that you're going to be selling.
Thank you. And then there's also like a I don't know, a ward system. I'm not sure how to say it best that like if there's 3 bad entries for a particular category, there could be no first, second, or third place prize based on them being
Right.
so bad that they don't even place in those standards.
Well, let's put a better spin on it than
Yeah,
bad. Okay.
please do.
Okay. When we judge to a standard.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, and you'll see this primarily in the state fair system. If 4 jars of honey show up, there's going to be 4 ribbons. If 2 jars of honey shows up, there's going to be 2 ribbons. Well, we don't do the comparison to the field method. We compare every entry to a example, a perfect standard. Okay. A jar of honey that is properly filled, clean, properly presented, the whole 9 yards. So what we do is every entry that comes in, we compare it to that. And what is not perfect that matches to the standard is where the flaws are denoted on our comment card. Okay. So if you can think of it as everybody is at 100%, and then as we get flaws, you get deduction, deduction, deduction. So there's sometimes you will not see a blue ribbon. You might see a second place or a third place. You might even see a third and a fifth place. We do that based upon the number of flaws away from being a perfect jar of honey. Okay. For our honey judging program, they have to earn a certain number of points. And that allows them to accumulate 50 points. And that's like the minimum that you have to get before you can move on in our program. So we assigned first place gets 6 points, second place 5 points, then 4 points, 3 points to all the way down to sixth place that has 1 point. So when you're in a honey show, all of the entries that you put in, they count up the number, and the total number of points that you have won will allow you to win what we call the sweepstakes. So you could actually win a sweepstakes award if you entered in 10 different categories and you only won third place in every one, you'd still win the award because you didn't maybe get a bunch of blue ribbons, but you got a lot of points. When it comes to best in show, we select that only from the blue ribbon winners. So that's
Hmm.
why you don't get that. But for our program, the points are what they accumulate and have to get the 50 points. For the average person, doesn't really matter about the points. It's mostly for our program. But it does allow you to get the sweepstakes. We have, well, in Georgia, they end up giving $500 to the best in show and $500 to the sweepstakes award. So you could enter in 70 categories and win sixth place, but you get 70 points. You could go home with $500. So,
Sure.
good for them. I guess they must print money in Georgia or something. I don't know because I don't know anybody else that puts that kind of money up for it. But that's kind of how we do that.
I have a
Steve, we
question.
have a couple questions
Yes,
in the chats, and
great.
folks, if you want to add more questions, go ahead. Judy asks, do judges use a refractometer to check moisture level?
Yes. We every judge has a refractometer, and before the show, we all make sure that they are all reading the same as far as all of our judges are concerned. But as we judge all of our entries, when you become familiar with it, you can tell whether a honey is above 18.6 or not. And that's just through experience that you'll be able to tell that. Any honey that we feel is questionable, we absolutely put the refractometer on it. But as a general rule, we don't normally have to do it on every entry that comes in. There's really no reason to, and um, 18.6 is the moisture content that was, or water content, whatever you want to call it, that was allowed by the USDA, I believe they set that. And so for us, it's a yes or no. Is it above 18.6 or is it below 18.6? Makes it really easy to go through there. So, there's really no advantage or benefit to any honey that is 15 instead of 16 or 17. We've never had anybody be able to explain how the moisture content below 18.6 makes any difference. But once it gets to 18.6 and above, the potential for fermentation is there. Now, that doesn't mean that when I dip my taster in there and I see it comes up as 19.2, it doesn't mean that it's fermented at all. It could just be as fine as the bees closed it off when they did that. But the potential is there. So when we are judging, it's the black and white, yes or no. Is it above 18.6? Whether it's fermented or not, it's not allowed. If it's 18.6 or below, then it's perfectly fine and there's no problem with it whatsoever.
So just to clarify, there's no penalization for your moisture content being too low.
Nope. Nope.
From an aesthetic point, do you find a benefit to a lower moisture honey than a higher moisture? Like, is it more potent because there's less water in it?
No. And we would love for somebody to tell us. Prove it to it. We've asked scientists really from all over the globe, and there's nobody that can tell us that there's any benefit to it. Now I judge some honey shows in California, and they actually penalize people if it's below 15%. Moist,
Yeah.
very dry out there.
Yeah.
In Georgia, if we can get it down to 18.5%, we're doing great because our humidity is like 95 all the time.
Right.
Um, but there is really no difference, no stability of shelf life, no difference in taste, no difference in, um, you know, health reason, nothing. There's been nothing proven that a honey at 18.5 is any better or worse for you than something that's at 16.
Thank you.
And so why would we go through the trouble of testing every one of them?
Right.
You don't need it. You don't need
Yeah.
it.
And you can tell the fluidity of the honey when it's close to that 18.5 or whatever point.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
you talked about using a flashlight instead of a polariscope. Is a polariscope usually not used anymore? Just because flashlights are so much easier?
Well, yes, polariscopes do a great job of showing particulate matter in honey. There is no
Okay.
argument about that at all. But there is there's no standardization for them. They're not manufactured by any company. So it's pretty much a backyard, do it yourself kind of project. They don't use the same source of light. It could be incandescent, it could be fluorescent, it could be LED, it could be ventilated, it could be battery operated, it could be plugged in a wall, it could weigh 10 pounds. And let me tell you, you start lugging that thing around, it's pretty heavy. And then you have to move each and every jar from where it is on the shelf over to the polariscope. Whereas our flashlight weighs about, 3 ounces. It is made on an assembly line where they make thousands of them that are all to a spec, certain specification. They have to make sure that they're at 500 lumen, 600 lumen, and you can wand it all around that jar of honey without even touching the jar and see just as much or as good as you can with a polariscope. The
Uh,
polariscope is only used for extracted honey, but I can use my flashlight to look at wax, look at mead. It- you know,
yeah,
Polariscopes are one trick ponies. Flashlights help us a whole lot better, but we don't discourage anybody if they want to use one. We just think it's an extra effort that really doesn't give you enough benefit to make it worth doing.
that makes sense. Kathy asks, please talk about the color glass that is used by the judges.
Okay. We have in our system, and this is one that was started over in Europe. It's a three-color system. It is light, and then medium or amber, and dark. And there was a study done, and we just reprinted the article that was written from this guy back in the 1700s about the color of honey really doesn't matter. That a three uh, section or three different colors is about all you really need in order to fairly judge honey. So in other words, you don't want to compare the taste and flavor and color of a light honey to a buckwheat. I mean, that's just like you can't
Right.
do that.
Right.
But doing the three, it is. So we have stained glass that one of them is a light colored glass and one is kind of a darker colored glass. And when you bring your entry in, if you're not sure what category to put it in, we hold up the glass and you can compare it to your jar. And it's like, is it lighter or darker than the glass? If it's lighter, it goes in light category. If it's darker than the glass, then we bring out the dark one and say, is it lighter than that or darker than that? If it's lighter than that, it goes in the middle. If it's darker, it goes into the dark. So it's very quick and it's really an easy way of doing it. You only got three sections. And in our system, if you enter in your honey in, say, for instance, the medium, and it probably should have been in the lighter category, Our judges will move it before we do our judging. So, in other words, that's the first step that we do. So, if you enter your honey and it's not in the right category, the judge will move it so that you have a better chance of being in the proper category to have your honey judged fairly.
Do you get points taken off for putting it into the wrong category? Okay.
No, no, not at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Gary asks, is there a copy of the items that judges look at available to the persons entering an entry?
absolutely. They're called the honey show rules.
Yeah.
Everything in the honey show rules is exactly what our honey judges use in order to assess anything, whether it's a jar of honey or a bar of soap or a candle or a cake or whatever. We don't like surprises. We want you, the entrant or the exhibitor, to know exactly what we're looking for in an exhibit that you put in. So there's no surprises. If you get a copy of those rules, and we try to publish them at least 90 days ahead of time, sometimes as much as 120 days, depending upon when we get the request for it. But if you get that and you read the rules for the specific category you're entering, there's no surprises. Everything that's listed on there is exactly what the judge looks for.
And I would say if you learn anything tonight, it's read the rules. 99% of doing well in a honey show is following the rules that are presented in each category. Most of what I hear people frustrated by is I didn't know I was supposed to use this jar or this or that, and all that information is in the rules. So that's where you should definitely be starting as you're thinking of preparing an entry.
Oh, listen, when I first started entering into honey shows before became a judge, it's like, well, wait a minute. You didn't tell me that you were going to look at this, or I didn't know about that. So I've been there. I have not done what I was supposed to do and read the rules. So I went, okay, lesson learned. I know now that if I read it, that's what they're going to judge it on. I've actually won a contest where the actual rules only stated like two different things that they looked for. So it's like, didn't matter about all this other stuff. It just, if those two criteria were met, that was perfect.
Yeah.
So we like to spell it out. We don't want anybody to be confused. Like I said, we don't like surprises. So if there's anything on there that we say we're going to look at, we're going to look at. If it's not written on there, we're not going to mark off for it. Perfect example of that would be the flaws that you see in a glass jar. We know that there is no way that you're going to get perfect glass anymore because everything has to be recycled. Recycled glass has got all kinds of flaws and stuff in it. We know that, and it's not in the rules. It says we're going to mark off for it. I never mark off for bubbles in glass when you submit your jar because there's nothing you can do about it. You can't get it, a perfect one anyway. So we don't even look at that. We don't even look at it. We want it to be clean, no fingerprints, smudges, honey on the outside. But if it's got a bubble in the glass, we don't care.
So the things within the beekeeper's control.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, Mary asks, this will be an interesting one. I've
Uh-oh.
heard beekeepers say you don't want to filter your honey. Is this to retain pollen and maybe other nutrient benefits? So now we have a difference in goals, maybe, for the liquid honey entered into a honey show and maybe what your customer might be wanting on the table at a market.
Right. Um, in our rules, it says you need to have honey that is clear, no debris in it, um, no air bubbles, no bits of pollen or whatever. Um, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for cleanliness. Um, Air bubbles doesn't affect the taste, but it makes the jar look hazy. And if you were to take, again, just some random person off the street, you put a jar that's clear that you can see through, and you put a jar that's hazy, I would say 95 out of 100 times they're going to pick that clear jar. So when it comes to selling to your customers, you're going to know what they want and what they don't want. I've got customers that only want to buy honey in quart mason jars with the two-piece lids. If I brought in something real fancy, they tell me to get out of town because they don't want to do it. And then I go into the downtown markets, and that's a whole nother that's a whole nother deal. But we're not talking about what you sell as your business. We're saying this is what we want to see from a honey at the honey show. We spell it out. We don't want to see any particulate matter. We want it to be as crystal clear as possible. So what does that mean? You might have to heat your honey a little bit. That's okay. You want that to be as clear as possible. We're not going to be judging you on taste so much when you're doing your honey, but don't cook it so much that it tastes burnt. But there are plenty of ways in order to clarify your honey that don't really require you to do much of anything other than just let it settle and put it in a warm environment, say like 100, 105 degrees. It'll naturally take care of itself that way, and you would be amazed at how clear it can truly get. But yeah, you might be right about all the pollen and stuff, but that's not what we're looking for in a honey show.
Thank you.
Sure.
If you are going to strain your honey to prepare it for a honey show, do you have a micron suggestion?
I'll tell you what I do. I take the honey from my uncapping tank, and here's why. When you put your honey frames into an extractor and you spin it, what are you doing? Throwing it out to the outside and it's adding air bubbles, right?
Yep. Yep.
It drains down, it goes through that screen, you're adding air bubbles.
Hmm.
So all of that stuff that you're doing there is adding air bubbles, which is going to make it look very cloudy. All right. So I take mine from the extracting, when I uncap it,
Yeah.
and if I have to use an extractor, I'll use a hand crank because you
Hmm.
can do it slower and it doesn't put as much air bubbles in it. But I try not to strain it through a micron filter at all. I'll put it in a container, whether it be, a 5 gallon bucket or a 3 gallon bucket, whatever, and I'll let it sit for a couple of weeks and let the heavy stuff sink down to the bottom. Let the lighter stuff go up to the top. I'll put a piece of wax paper over the top. And as the stuff comes up and gets in contact with that, when you peel it off, it looks like a mirror. I mean, it
Yeah.
just pulls everything out. Don't bottle your honey for the show from the bottom part because you're going to get some of the heavier stuff. You want the middle part, that sweet spot. But that's the way I do it. So I don't run it through any particular filter. And you'd be amazed at how clean and clear that honey is going to look. So,
That's interesting, Steve. I've heard a couple people who have won honey contests or honey shows with honey from a flow hive. And what you said makes me think the same thing, that extracting process can impact how some people's honey presents in a contest, and they're not putting their honey through that process if you're just putting the key in and turning it and putting it into a jar. But there's more to it than that.
right,
There's taking the stuff out above and beyond. But
right.
that's an interesting strategy for that.
Yeah.
Um, Mike asks, Steve, do you know the number of how many total possible categories are there in a show, or are some shows more focused on flavor judging rather than visual or smell or taste? Just curious.
Okay. Every show is a unique animal for the most part. Like I say, in our master rules, we have 170 some different categories, but most honey shows usually, are around 20 categories. That's really a lot for even a state honey show, 20 categories. Um, in South Carolina, we do two honey shows a year, one in the spring and one in the end of summer, fall part. Our early one in like January, February is mostly an artisan show. So you're going to have wax products, you're going to have food products, you're going to have like meads, uh, those kind of things because you're not actively working on honey at this point. You know, your bees have been put to bed for 2 or 3 months. So these are the things that you started working on back in August. Then when we get to our summer, that's the one where we mostly get the honey and the beeswax that you have done from this season's um, crop or whatever. So you're going to get a mix of some. You'll see like photography that might be in both the spring and the summer, but they do tend to kind of follow along with what the beekeeper will have available to them in order to enter the honey show. So in other words, you're not going to have fresh honey in February.
Right.
Um,
Speaking of those different categories, what are a couple categories that you feel like some groups don't do and you'd like to see them do more of? Like that's a really cool category. Let's do more of these, people.
Wow. That's getting kind of personal there because I'm such a purist.
Yeah,
I love to see honey done well. I love to
yeah.
see wax. Wax is one of the hardest things, if not the hardest, to do right. I love
Mm.
to see good wax and good honey put into a honey show. The more difficult things that you don't see so much that are nice to see is like the cut comb, whether it is a piece of comb in a jar surrounded by the extracted honey or the actual sections itself. Um, that's a real indicator of the beekeeper skill. You have
Yeah,
to manage your colony in order to get those things. So if you can imagine and kind of extrapolate a little bit, the results that you get in this year's honey show, and you go, man, I want to win that, blue ribbon in such and such a category. So now you're going out, you're managing your bees differently in order to get that result. So as you can see, the training that we give you on what you need to do to make a good exhibit really affects the way that you manage your honeybees from start to finish
so
because you have
I'm
to have good, strong colonies. You have to be on top of when your honey flow is. I mean, there's so many things that kind of interact and interconnect if you decide to make XYZ exhibits or whatever.
sure.
But
So I'm glad you brought up comb honey because I make comb honey every year. It's one of my favorite things to make. But I write all over my frames. I've got comb on top of my frame. If that's a really awesome frame, am I going to get deducted for having my communication marks on that frame?
yeah, probably you got some
Yeah,
sandpaper, maybe sand it
yeah,
off.
yeah,
Get you some Clorox maybe and do that. Yeah, when we're looking for a full frame, and boy, I tell you, I have made some really beautiful frames. I'm just too scared to put it in because some of them judges are pretty tough. But we're looking for as clean of not just the wax in the honey, but the frame itself. You
yeah.
know, and we had one the other month or so. I mean, this thing looked like one of the frames that my grandpa used to use. That's how bad the frame looked. The honey itself was
Mm,
beautiful, but
yeah,
the frame was just so mangled and wax moth marks all over it. It's like,
yeah. I can see how that wouldn't present so well, no matter what is in between those four pieces of wood.
right, right. But I mean, I encourage everybody, enter, even if it's not perfect, enter because you're going to get some awesome feedback on things that maybe you didn't think you could do. For instance, take a piece of sandpaper or an X-Acto knife to scrape off something like that. It's like, man, I never thought of doing that. And it will help improve your game, those
Yeah,
kind of things. But yeah, some of the other things is mead. I'm a mead maker. I love to see mead coming in. A lot of people get real excited about mead and they try to rush it, and that's not something that you can rush. I think probably 5-year-old mead is probably the minimum that it should be before you enter in a honey show. So
wow.
you got to prepare way in advance for that one.
That's a
But
commitment.
It is. But once you get started, it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It just has patience. And you can ask my wife, I don't have a lot of that. So, you know.
Judy asks a question about jars. Is there a specific kind of jar that is the standard to use for honey contest? Queen line, mason jar, etc.
Right. The honey show rules will tell you what is acceptable for each individual honey show. Typically, for us, the American Honey Show Training Council, we use the Queen line or the Classic. Those are the ones that are easy to get from just about anywhere that you want. Um, you may have to buy two or three cases in order to get three or four jars that are really in great shape, if you're really into, you know, doing all of that exhibiting and that. But there are some that will say you can enter it into a muth or muth jar, however you want to do it, or it needs to be in a pint jar. The rules are going to tell you what's acceptable for that particular honey show, but almost all of them will do it with either the Queen line or the Classic. And the reason we do that is we're trying to level the playing field. Even between the Queen line and the Classic, the same honey will display differently because of the thickness of the glass and the thickness of the honey. Okay. So the same honey that you pour in each one of those things, one's going to be darker than the other. So if you're, you know, on the fence, you don't know if it needs to be into the light category or the dark category, you may choose your jar to help in either direction. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And I can tell you that the darker honey is a whole lot harder to find flaws in than the lighter honey. A perfect example is our headmaster, Michael Young. He entered into a contest in a extracted honey, and he had some very dark honey. And he actually put a lump of coal into the jar, but the honey was so dark you couldn't see it. So after he won an award, they took the top off and he pulled the. So if you're looking to if you're looking to win a blue ribbon, start with the darker honey. It's hard to find flaws.
That's funny. Now, Kathy asks if you can describe the difference with the black jar contest.
Okay. The black jar is real simple. It's flavor only. We don't smell it. We don't look at it. We provide little plastic black containers and we dip it in and just taste it. That's all we do. We don't care if it has bits of wax in it. We don't care if it has bug parts in it. Uh, we've had some people enter it in with a plastic cockroach. We even had one guy, and this is a true story. You can't make this kind of stuff up. He put his glass eye in the jar because he said he wanted to keep an eye on the judges to make sure that we weren't cheating, but it is strictly by taste, and it's probably the most subjective one you're going to find because not everybody is going to taste things the same. We all have our subconscious, prejudices, but
Sure.
what we do is we do it by a process of elimination, and every judge gets involved in it. So if we have 20 jars of black jar, we'll have, three judges come in and they'll taste it and they will mark it, discreetly mark which ones they like. Then we'll bring in another group and they'll do the same thing and discreetly mark. So we take a kind of a global thing. Everybody gets to taste it. And then as we eliminate and get down to whatever it is, either first place or the top three or the top six, it gets tasted numerous times, but it's all about taste. And for me personally, I like something that's right in the middle that is, that anybody would like. I don't like anything that's on the real sweet side. I don't want anything that's on the real dark side. I prefer something that's going to be good for everybody that would want to taste this particular honey. But it is pretty much the most subjective one, and it's all about taste. We don't care what it looks like.
Thank you. Lisa asked, are novice categories in each show?
Okay. Well, we have found that a lot of people were intimidated by competing against, people that have done it multiple times. Because we do have people that will ride what we call ride the honey show circuit. We'll see them go to everyone within a certain, area. So we've said, well, let's make it easier for the person who's never entered a honey show before. So instead of having to do 3 jars of honey, which would be typical, we say, well, you only have to do 1 jar. And you compete against people who have never won in a honey show anywhere else. So you're competing against amateurs just like everybody else. But if you win a first, second, or third place in the novice, you no longer get to be a novice anymore. And we keep track of that. So just to let you know, we're going to check on you. But it does give you a chance. You don't have to, like I say, do three. You only need to do one, and gives you a chance to be able to compete against others that are in the same kind of situation. So we're trying to expand that. We're doing it for extracted honey. We're doing it for some wax, and we're trying to look at some other things that would allow you to compete against the same level. We want people to win ribbons. Believe me, we spend the money for them. We like to give them away. You can't reuse a ribbon. So we really want you to get out there and do it. And we encourage anybody. We're going to give you as much help as we can so that you can win that ribbon. We want you to win the ribbon.
Thank you. So here we are. We had our first honey show connected to your organization. I'm always, as a learner, I always look to people who have done it before or groups that have done it before. What are the states that have the two questions, Steve? What are the states that have the top of the tier honey show? Thinking about, the sky's the limit. What are those states to look at as models? And as well as what are the states that are maybe a year or two ahead of us in development that would be good models as well. We're a small state as far as beekeepers go. We're not going to be able to do everything that Georgia or Florida can do just because of different amount of people being able to participate. But I'm sure there are other states out there that have small groups like us that we could still look at as models as we're thinking of improving ours from year to year.
Absolutely. Yeah, I personally don't like the Florida and Georgia because they've just grown way above their raising, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Uh, Honey shows need to be about beekeepers.
yeah,
And, $100 for a blue ribbon and $1,000 for this. To me, that's getting out of control. We need to keep it down where we're really teaching and training the beekeepers.
mm,
Um, so I would have to say that Colorado is a good place to start because you guys did an awesome job in your show. We just did one in Pennsylvania, first time ever for them, and they did a great job. They did a fantastic job. Virginia and West Virginia are our two upcoming states that have done excellent, excellent jobs in their and they're still, they've only been having honey shows for maybe a couple of years. So they haven't been doing it for a really long time. And but you guys have gotten off on a great start. Um I don't think you really need to look at anybody else. I think you guys are doing great. And
that's awesome, Steve.
if you can keep up with that amount of interest and the practice, the repetition of doing, as many honey shows as you can. And in South Carolina, we only did two a year for at least 15 or 20 years. So our people never really got a chance to get much practice. But now
Yeah.
that we've expanded so much, we sometimes have three or four a year now in South Carolina. And you guys will probably get to that as well. And it's just going to help you. The more times you enter, the more you're going to see how things go, how you should prepare it. You guys are going to do real good, real well.
And that's what I'm seeing as well. Great first year working with the American Honey Show. I can never get it right.
That's
Training
all right.
Council.
Hey, we're
Um,
thinking of changing the name, so come up with a good name for us and we'll
whew,
change it. Because
something
it's a
that flows a
mouthful, isn't
little
it?
bit better. Yeah.
It
Um,
doesn't roll off the tongue at all.
no, it doesn't. But it all makes sense when I slow down and I think about the meaning of what you guys do, then I can really get the name right. But I'm envisioning we had a couple of great experiences this year. If we have the Pueblo folks every year with their big conference in the spring do a honey show, we do one during our winter meeting, and then one other local club does one. That's three a year that Colorado beekeepers could participate in at the very least, which
Right.
also leads to Lisa's question. Where is Texas at with their shows? And like, what are the adjacent places that people could go to travel from Colorado if they want to participate in shows near us?
Yeah, our website lists all of the honey shows and the training opportunities for the next year, pretty
Wow.
much. Yeah,
Okay.
we have people constantly calling us, wanting to work with us and all of that. So whenever we can confirm it, it's going to be on our website. So that's probably the first place that you want to look as far as what's coming up in your area. Okay.
Okay.
Um, and like I say, you can always send me an email. I'd be glad to share anything. Anybody can send me an email or call me. My contact information is on our website, and that's honeyshowusa.com. I know you didn't get a chance to write that down, but we're pretty good at responding right back to you. Um, we'll let you know what's on the books, what's upcoming, who we're talking to. Uh, you know, you can start your own. That's the easiest way. You don't have to come and say, "Hey, where can I do it?" Do your own. Do your own local honey show. That way you have control over it. So, um, but that information is out there, and we'll be glad to help you if you need to, want to participate in the show or if you want to get some training experience or whatever. We'll provide you all the options that you have, and then you can go as you can. We know a lot of people can't travel. We understand that. And so we're doing our very best to try to have as many things in as many places as we can, but we don't want to sacrifice our quality. That's the one thing we won't do.
Yeah. Thank you.
We
Um,
yes,
Uh, uh, I really, like I said so many times already, I really enjoyed our honey show experience this year. I felt the difference in quality, the difference in excitement. Steve, if there's one thing I could do differently, though, it would be to have folks have more time in that room looking at those products instead of right at the end when we're done, pick it up on the way out and you have 15 minutes with a
totally agree.
1 day event. How is that possible?
It's not.
I've seen other groups do something like where you can put entries in on Friday, and that makes the judging of everything go a little bit faster, so you can have more time. But I wanted to see I wanted all those people who weren't participating
Yes.
to go in and see how cool it was, and I don't know how to make that more possible.
But let me talk to Brutz and see if we can't come up with some suggestions for you. Um, One of the more important things that we have seen in all sizes of honey shows is the ability for those people that didn't enter the honey show to be able to walk through and see the exhibits. And
Yeah.
they look through and they go, hell, I could have done that. And it excites them as well. It gives
Yep.
us as judges a chance to talk to the people. So when they come in, say for instance, somebody had an exhibit, they will ask, well, can you explain the comment card? So we will do that. And it's amazing. It's like a magnet. All these people get drawn in and they listen to it and they hear all of
Yep.
these things. So the time where you have the public viewing is a very valuable thing for not only the exhibitors, but for all the attendees to your conference. And if there's any way that you can manipulate, manage, cut out extra time, it's definitely well worth it. So be glad to work with you on that.
Yeah, that's one thing I walked away from that day wishing there was a little bit more of, because I
Me
saw
too.
all the excitement in that room.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure everyone felt that, and that's something I want to
Yes.
try to build on for the future.
Absolutely
Um,
agree with you. It is. That's my favorite part when the people come in and we look see all of these things and we talk about all the things. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where that's like you said, people look at that and go, "Oh, that's all it is. I can do that." And then they start thinking about what can I do to participate next time. You see the people that won get really excited, and it's just great energy. So I'd love to tap into that a little bit more. Is there a
Excellent.
ratio of like how many people are judging to how many categories there are that makes it flow smoothly? Like if there's only three categories, you don't need eight people,
Right.
right?
Right. Um, we have some formulas that we can use. It gives us a fairly good ballpark
Yeah.
average, and we can average about 15% of the people that are attending a conference will enter into honey shows. Okay. So if you have
Yep.
100 people there, 15 people are going to enter in. Of those 15 people, the average is about three entries per person. So you're talking about 45 entries. This is just ballpark, but
Yeah. It's a good place to
depending upon
start.
the categories, it's at least something.
Yeah.
So each judge can judge about 6 exhibits per hour.
Okay.
So it really comes down to math. If you have
Yeah.
45 entries, you divide that by six, that's how many hours that you need. So if you have a 2 day conference, you can have one judge do the whole thing because they have enough time. But if you have
Mm,
a 1 day conference and you have 2 hours to judge everything, that's when you need to bring in more manpower in order to get it done in that time frame. So it's just a matter of taking that ballpark numbers and adjusting your time and people to be able to fit into whatever your time frame is.
got it.
Does that make sense?
It does totally. Judy asks, any tips on transporting honey jars to a show?
Sure. What you want to do is make sure that you have a good, safe, solid box that you're going to put it into. Um, when I transport, I always take a couple of extra jars. So if I have 3 jars that I have to enter, I'm going to take 4 or 5. I'm going to take my jars and clean them up really good, put a piece of wax paper over the top of it, and just take any lid that I have, not the show lid, but any lid, and put that on all of my jars, transport it to the honey show area, and we have something called a prep area. So at that point, you take it out of the box. You're going to take that extra lid off. You're going to take your wax paper off. You're going to make sure that you clean the outside real well. Honey is going to change depending upon the temperature, the height, the fill level of it. So you want to make sure that it's all stable as far as your temperature is concerned. Use those 2 extra jars to adjust the fill levels if you need to. Bring your brand new lid that you sorted out when you first got your jars, and put that on your lid right before you turn it in so you don't have a damaged lid. Um, again, just wipe it down real well and make sure that your fill level is right. Get your flashlight out. Make sure you didn't miss anything. That's what the kind of last minute prep area is for. So basically a good, solid, stable box and um, extra honey if you need to adjust it, and extra pristine lids that you can swap everything out right at the very end before you put it up to the secretary table.
Thank you. Kathy's got a couple suggestions. I'm not sure if she means a black jar, but she says do a black box at the summer meeting, perhaps. Black box at meet and greet before the summer meeting.
Sorry, Brian.
Yeah, go ahead,
Jar,
Kathy.
black jar. Yeah,
Black
not
jar.
black
Thank you.
box.
Thank you. The one thing I did think of as far as expediting that process is if we had like a Friday meet and greet, have an opportunity for some people to put entries in at least that Friday so that Saturday morning doesn't get backed up with people online trying to put all their entries in.
Right.
Um,
The,
that's
o-
the
the only
only, yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
the only thing about that is I would not want somebody else transporting my honey from the meet and greet where you're putting the money in, unless you have the same room,
Yeah,
to
yeah,
the next, because somebody else bumps it or carries it and then gets honey on the lid, and then I'm docked for it. So
yep. There's definitely details to figure out for sure, but just trying to think about different ways we could make
I,
that one day honey show event end up with an opportunity of people
yeah,
getting
yeah.
I think we can do something to help you. I
cool.
think we can.
All right. Well, Steve, as we wrap up, I'm going to be going to Louisville, Kentucky for the Bee Expo. Will you be there as well?
Unfortunately, yes.
That's probably the biggest honey show in North America these days. Would you
It
agree
is.
with that?
Yep, yep. I think I'm going to be there probably Tuesday and maybe go home the following Wednesday. So,
Wow.
well, there's bourbon up there. So,
Yeah, there you go. And if you're looking to do some interesting infusions with your honey, you can definitely get some barrels in the Louisville area
here you
if you're
go.
looking for that kind of stuff for sure. Well,
But no,
that's the standard that I think of, Steve, when I think of what is possible with a honey show. I think about all the amazing things that I've seen at the Bee Expo honey shows, and I know Colorado's can never get to that size, but quality I definitely feel like we can get to. There's just as many great beekeepers, just as many creative people out there. There's lots of great people in Colorado that can set that bar really, really high. Do you?
I don't think anybody that participated in your Colorado show has anything to worry about. They had that quality that would go into Louisville. That quality was there already from your very first time. You guys did excellent, excellent entries.
That's
Good
awesome.
quality.
Thank you very much, Steve. Where else will you be coming up besides the Bee Expo in January? Do you know of other shows you'll be hitting?
Well, so far they've talked about us at uh Wisconsin, I think it is, and
Yep.
we have West Virginia, and they're talking about Trenton, New Jersey
Oh,
in
nice.
January. I don't know about that one.
All right.
But yeah, we get around a good bit, you know. I'm hoping for snow. So I don't have to go.
Right. So can you end with like a fun or interesting story, like the weirdest thing you've ever seen in an entry, or like one of the coolest entries you've ever seen that was so
Hmm.
out of the box?
Wow. Hmm. Well, I did see a varroa mite doing the backstroke on top of a jar of honey one time. We did see that. There has been some very interesting things. We had a frame that had live wax moths crawling around in it and a couple of black widow spiders. So
Hmm.
that one was a little bit interesting. I didn't want to take that one out of the frame, just um, but it's a fun thing to do. We have a blast with it. Uh, we have some people that like the mead part of it. We had one lady design a cocktail that was made with blood oranges and Crown Royal or something. And let me tell you what, that thing went. I think we went through 3 bottles of Crown in tasting that one to make sure it was the winner. So yeah,
Right, right.
we've had some fun stuff and we've had some stuff that's pretty scary, but all in all, it's a great group of people. We have a lot of fun. Uh, disseminating our knowledge of how to make your entries better. And that's our that's our goal is we want to make everybody better producers and we like to have fun doing it. And we hope that everybody that came to this meeting tonight, I hope you consider entering something in. We'd love to work with you and teach you how to make because our bees make the best thing known to man, honey. It's the best thing in the world, and we need to market it to people so they know how good it is, and we need
Yeah.
to do it right.
And I think that for me is where honey shows really shine is they help teach the beekeeper how special their products are so that beekeeper can then push that information out to the non-beekeeping community beyond
Yes.
honey. I think, a lot of people know the specialness of honey, but there's so much even beyond that that honey shows can help you make products to help you kind of dial in your talk about wax or propolis or whatever it is that you make that you try to make a little bit of money off of it. It
Right.
elevates the specialness of the honeybee.
It does. And it raises all beekeepers throughout the whole country. I mean, it really does. It raises our stock in society. I really believe it, or at least that's what I'm hoping for.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I have a job now. I have to buy some foundationless frames that I don't write on, that I know will be my comb honey frames, but I've got to know how they're my comb honey frames somehow when I put them
No,
in.
no. You can use foundation. It's okay. Use thin
Yeah,
surplus.
I don't
That
want
works.
to. But
That
I need
works.
to know which frame it is in my box, which is the comb honey frame, so I don't extract it. And that's why I wrote comb
Hey,
on top of all of my frames.
all right. So here's a trick.
Yeah,
Thumbtacks. Thumbtacks.
thumbtacks. Okay.
Put it right in
Yeah.
the joint so
Okay.
that it
Yeah.
doesn't make a mark in the wood.
Okay. Yeah. That's good.
All right.
So I was visualizing the hole in the wood, and I'm like, well, then I wouldn't, because that's the way I'll get when I do it. I'm gonna want it to be perfect.
That's
And
right.
that,
So
yeah.
where the top comes down, you
Yep.
put that thing right there in the seam.
Pro tip.
You'll
Love it,
never see
Steve.
it. Yeah.
Yep. Right on.
Pinky swear. You got a
Oh, go
pinky
ahead,
swear on that
Brian.
one.
All right. I'll do that
Brian,
one. Yes.
when someone is trying to keep track of what's going on in the hive, he has a brick on top of the hive and he'll put on the brick frame number 1, number 3, number 5, whatever he wants to remember about that particular hive. So maybe you can write it on a brick that you have on top of the hive or some way that like that.
Thank you.
Which frame
Another
in the
great
hive.
tip.
You know what?
Documentation is a good goal
Yeah.
for me.
I have a friend that we keep bees pretty closely together, and he has one of those clear plastic like things you can put sheets of paper in, and he tapes it to the inside of his top cover,
Yep.
and he pulls out the sheet and then writes down all the stuff and then slides it in there and puts it on there.
Yeah. It's a great idea. All
I
right.
don't
Well,
know.
Steve, we'll see you in Louisville. We'll see you in future honey shows. Thank you,
Hope so.
everyone, for joining us.
Thank you,
Our
everybody, for
Jan
your time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our January sustainability chat will be with a friend of mine out of the St. Louis area. His name is Matt Ramsbottom. He owns a company called Sandy Valley Honey Company, and he has perfected inverting sugar to make a fondant. So he's going to teach us how to make our own fondant at home. There's a lot of great products out in the market, but if you're looking to save money, sustainability means many things, and one thing it means is saving money. You can learn how to do that by making fondant next month in January. Steve, thanks again. Hope you get
Thank
to
you,
see a
Brian.
little bit of snow over the
Yeah,
winter, but not in Louisville. That's
right,
my wish.
right.
All
Thank you,
right.
everyone, for coming tonight. Appreciate it.
Take care, everyone. Happy holidays, and we'll see you in January. Good night, all.
Night, everybody.